I think the administration.
So the administration turned a blind eye to your analysis?
I don't know if they turned a blind eye. I think it was a decision. I think it was a willful decision.
A willful decision to go support an insurgency that had Salafists, Al-Qaeda, and
a willful decision to do what they're doing, which you have to really ask the president, what is it that he actually is doing with the policy that is in place, because it is very, very confusing. I'm sitting here today, Mehdi, and I can't tell you exactly what that is, and I've been at this for a long time.
What Seymour Hersh has written about, what we broke, what Colonel Schaefer has talked about, what Steve Pachenik has talked about. He was the head of Defense Intelligence in the middle of all this, and here he is exposing it on international television. That shows courage. And if he'll expose the nexus point between criminal elements in our government, bipartisan, John McCain, Obama, Hillary, arming radical jihadists to take over Libya, parts of Syria, Iraq, you name it, and show that they're working with Saudi Arabia to betray this nation in Europe, he gets my support right there, because he's also talking about the plan for a European caliphate. He's talking about the plans to flood us with migrants for destabilization. He basically got in trouble from Obama and taken out in 2014, despite the fact he was an innovator, despite the fact he was a Democrat, because he kept saying radical Islam, radical Islam. Well, Orthodox Islam is radical Islam. He's not even going further enough saying that, but he got removed for saying radical Islam when it is Islam that is engaged in hundreds and hundreds of terror attacks. And it's Sunni-based, funded by Saudi Arabia. So the word is, right now he's at the top of the list, and Trump could announce by Friday. They're planning, the current word is, Trump changes his mind. Obviously, he's an innovative thinker himself, that by Friday or Saturday they're going to be announcing the VP, and that right now Michael T. Flynn is right up there at the top. So is Jeff Sessions, but not at the very top anymore. He's still in the top 3 names. Michael T. Flynn. Don't forget what he said on Al Jazeera. Don't forget the article is also linked on INFOWARS.com, because if we can show that our own government is financing Black Lives Matter and ISIS and Al-Qaeda to destabilize the world and bring in more control, we can really reverse a lot of the activities that the social engineers are involved with. I'm Alex Jones. Now back to INFOWARS Nightly News.
Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. I'm Ashley Beckford with INFOWARS.com. I'm out here today on the streets of Austin, Texas, to debunk the myth that cops are gung-ho about killing black men in the 21st century. Questions, please? You're busy right now? Okay, cool. Out of 1,000 people killed in police shootings, how many do you think were black?
Out of 1,000?
Yeah.
I know, 212.
It's, well, go ahead.
212.
No.
That's a great question. 400.
400? Yes.
Out of 1,000, just any kind of shooting?
This was police shootings in 2015.
Police shootings, 2015, 1,000 people. 700?
I'll go 300.
You'll go 300?
800.
Okay. It's actually 258, but that was close enough.
Because I just looked at the statistics.
Okay. Does that surprise you, since you kind of said like a higher number?
I think it is probably surprising, but at the same time you have to look at, media perception of a lot of things that happen, throughout the country. I think that the media skews a lot of different things. I am a senior at the University of Texas, but I am from Chicago. And so it's just very interesting to see the difference in, perception from place to place, from city to city.
I don't know, it's not, given what I know about, the current, setup as far as, race culture goes in the U.S., that makes sense. Just given, how the demographics are, disenfranchised from historical perspective. I don't really know what the best motion, forward as far as, the political nature would go. So I don't really know where to push for change, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's a huge uncertainty for me.
Okay. And how about you?
I think, I did overshoot it a little bit with my estimate, but the problem there remains that, this population that is out of the entire population, 13%, like you said, is being like killed in police shootings at a disproportionate rate. You know, like obviously that is a problem we have to address, and we can't just be colorblind to it, you know, or blind to the problem. We have to say like something here is happening, and we have to say, you know, it probably has its roots in racism.
But I guess my question is, with those statistics, how many were shot unfairly? Because a lot of times police can be, it can be a shooting, but under which circumstance are they comparing black shootings to white shootings?
It's difficult to say anything really because there's so many factors that play into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sorry, what was the main question?
There's a cultural bias towards it because everyone likes to focus on racial inequities because that's just been like a kind of a recurring theme in America. But I mean, it still is disproportional, I think, in terms of population. So I think there is an issue for sure that needs to be addressed.
But I think there are things that need to be done. And I think that at the end of the day, a lot of the times, news sources and media love to, you know, put the blame on someone and just scapegoat onto, you know, police officers or something like that. Yeah. But at the end of the day, everyone makes mistakes. There's always instances of different, you know, violence and different crimes. And honestly, it's a shame that we're even having this discussion in like the 21st century.
We talked to a lot of people out here about what they thought about the recent police shootings, and basically the bottom line is this: we have to educate the public about the reality of what's going on with these police shootings. Knowledge is power against the globalists. I'm Ashley Beckford with INFOWARS.com.
There's been a lot of talk about the upcoming Olympics in Rio, and with all the issues out there, I wanted to go over some of the things that people are discussing. First of all, let's start with this. You guys may recall this about a month or so ago. Officers saying welcome to hell as people exited the planes and came into the city doing their pre-Olympic trials or whatever they needed to do. And we see Rio de Janeiro has cut budgets across the board, delaying officers' salaries, halting patrols, and fueling worries about safety at the world premier sporting event. And the article goes on to document how emergency responders, your police officers, your firefighters have delayed salaries. They're telling them to bench their vehicles in an effort to save gas, and all around just not providing the safest of environments. And it reminded me of the article we saw in Detroit a few years ago where police were telling people to enter the city at their own risk. They say this is a warlike type of situation and visitors are unsafe in the city of Detroit. At least they're warning people about this. They're saying whether it's budget cuts or whatever else, they don't feel like they can do an adequate job of protecting you. But back to Rio, the article points out that while the local officers are not being paid or having their salaries bent or whatever else, the article reports that some 85,000 police and soldiers, roughly twice the security contingent at the London Olympics, are to be deployed. But it does point out that in a city of 12 million people, where armed muggings, stray bullets, and turf wars between heavily armed drug gangs are routine, you still have a number of safety concerns. And as we're talking about Rio, there's a new article that's out today, and it's documenting how a lot of times you have sex traffickers who try to dovetail on these events, whether it's a Super Bowl or the Olympics or whatever else. And of course, I don't blame the sports organization. I'm saying people take advantage of those situations. 8 girls rescued from sex trafficking ring during pre-Olympic sweep in Rio. And to round things out, one of the things that I always thought was interesting is the Olympic venue, something that they build exclusively for the Olympics, but oftentimes these places end up derelict after the festivities have ended. And I have this article from the Business Insider, what abandoned Olympic venues from around the world look like today. And as you go through it, they have many different pictures and things that you could look at. There are other articles out there as well, detailing that basically after everything was done, said and done, the thing said derelict, and people brought the question, well, how good was it? How profitable was it for us to host the Olympics? Of course, you got, tourism, you got people going to the restaurants and to the hotels and stuff like that. But to use money to build these big facilities and other things, especially in lieu of paying your first responders, like in the case in Rio de Janeiro, it has many people scratching their heads as to was it really worth it in the long term. Now, of course, I think the Olympics can be a great event. Gives people a sense of national pride, athleticism, people accomplishing their goals, all that warm and fuzzy stuff. But really, you have to wonder as well, was it really worth it at the end of the day? In some cases, I'm sure for some countries, in some areas, it's a great financial boost. In other places, maybe not so much. You can find more reports on INFOWARS.com.
Unfortunately, you've grown up hearing voices that incessantly warn of government as nothing more than some separate, sinister entity that's at the root of all our problems.
It's time to stop submitting to this tyranny. It's time to realize that we're being enslaved.
Some of these same voices also do their best to gum up the works. They'll warn that tyranny is always lurking just around the corner.
Tyranny with a capital T.
You should reject these voices.
Everything that's been done with torture, rendition, the NDAA, the Patriot Acts 1 and 2, from day one was focused on the American people, period. That's it. It's always been about erasing the Bill of Rights and Constitution and rolling out NSA spying publicly, saying it's for Al-Qaeda, rolling out torture, saying it's for Al-Qaeda, but it's really for the general public, rolling out total control and the end of any underground free market systems in the name of fighting Al-Qaeda, but really shutting down any type of free commerce. This is all about converting us from a free society to a tyranny with a capital T.
Joe Biggs here with INFOWARS.com. Now I want to talk about something that is weighing heavily on my heart, the direction our country is going in. And quite frankly, I'm getting pissed off, but the thing is, we have to understand we're being socially engineered to be pissed off. For instance, today I turned on Twitter and the hashtags I saw were Black Lives Matter, all lives don't matter. All this racial division that is completely fanning the flames of this entire, what seems to be is a possible race war that's going to happen. Tensions are so hot and heavy right now in America, and everyone is so concerned about these damn labels. Black Lives Matter. Well, if black lives don't matter, then no lives matter. But if you say blue lives matter, that's racist. Well, guess what? Blue Lives Matter is talking about law enforcement, and those are people of all race, all colors, all gender, all religions. It doesn't matter. What we have is a huge systemic problem in our government right now. President Barack Obama, a black man, he was supposed to be the great equalizer, the uniter of our country. And since his time in office, there has been more division. We have an attorney general who's head of overall law enforcement in Loretta Lynch. She is a black woman. And yet people keep screaming for justice in the black community, and yet nothing's happening. But we see Black Lives Matter movements and people that are leaders in that movement coming out and calling for the killings of police officers, to run them over and shoot them, to go after white people, to target them. We saw what happened in Dallas this past weekend when multiple officers were shot and killed. That is ridiculous. We need to focus on unifying our country. And how do we do that? Stop labeling everything Black Lives Matter, all lives matter. And I hear a lot of people keep coming out and going, well, if all lives matter, we wouldn't be in the situation that we are right now. And I can understand that. But what we need to focus on is the fact that we have a government, a group of elites who want to enslave us all. We are heading towards 1984, and no one sees that. We keep wanting to blame law enforcement. We keep wanting to blame other leaders or white people for the problems that are going on, and completely ignore the fact that there are these global elites who want to enslave us all. And we have people like President Barack Obama, Al Sharpton, calling for the federalization of our police departments. And this is what's going to happen when you have these Black Lives Matter movement leaders going out on the streets, on record, on film, being caught saying to go out and kill cops. What's going to happen? You're going to have all these local law enforcement officers who are either going to be too scared to go to work, or they're just going to quit. And then what's going to happen? We're going to call for this federalization of police, and it's going to go into a militarized police state run by martial law. And that's what people have to understand. Stop labeling everybody white or black and trying to blame it on a different race. We have a corrupt system that wants to enslave you, the African American, me, the white American, people of all races, colors, and genders. That's where you need to be pissed off at. Stop blaming police. Stop blaming other people for your problems. I've been stopped by police before. I've been harassed. Many of these people who have been harassed by police officers have done it for the 43 times. And that 43rd time, they end up getting shot and killed. Yes, that's horrible.